All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Ironside Office Hour session. Thank you for joining. I can't believe we're already having another session. The weeks are just flying by.
Yes,
How are
they
you doing,
are.
Bob?
I'm doing good. Weeks are flying by. The summer's coming. We're what, a week away from summer? Week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, week and a
Something like
half.
that.
Yeah, it's good. It's beautiful outside. I love this.
It is crazy, crazy that we're already mid-jam. All right. Well, if anyone is new here, welcome. I'm Paris Williams. I'm the MC for these bi-weekly sessions, joined here with Bob Miller, the owner of Ironside IT Partners. Each session, we start with a brief topic and then we open the floor for Q&A. So feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box below and we will get them answered. They don't have to be related to today's topic, just any IT or cybersecurity questions that you may have. And also, the session is going to be recorded, posted to our YouTube channel, usually by the end of the day. So, today's topic is AI is already in your business. Employees are using AI whether you approve it or not. Bob is going to be covering this session topic and answering your questions. So, Bob, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. I'll share this screen out. All right. So, yes, AI is already in your business. And so this slide, this presentation today, this office hours, the content we'll go over today is why every organization needs rules before AI makes the rules, before AI makes the rules. Um, and so just before we get into it, a little bit about us and Ironside. I started Ironside about 21 years ago. We're a managed IT and cybersecurity company who help businesses eliminate technology headaches and reduce their risk. And at our core, we're a relationship-driven IT partner focused on keeping you secure and productive. And that's really our goal. We are absolutely relationship first. Any of you who are our clients know that firsthand, whether it's me or one of our staff who we know get to know you very well. We have organizational memory, and everything we do revolves around our relationship with you. And of course, it's our moral obligation. We take it very seriously. It's our moral obligation to educate you and prepare you for, the threats that are out there. And that's why we do these office hours, so that we can give you some tidbits of information, and then we answer your questions about this or whatever else you have going on. So, getting back into AI, the long and the short of it is the truth, the facts of the matter are that employees are using AI. AI is the new shadow IT. Now, we've talked about shadow IT in the past. That's where people are using technology resources and services without getting necessarily approval from management. And it could be literally anything. So 20 years ago, and by 20 years ago, I do not mean that this ended 20 years ago. It has not ended. This just means this began 20 years ago. We talked about when we talked about shadow IT, we talked about personal email, flash drives, Dropbox, Google Drive, things like that. 10 years ago, we were talking about SaaS applications, employees just using their company credit card to sign up for little tools here and there. Today, and by the way, again, we reiterate, the stuff is not going away. It still happens all the time. And it's still a little bit of an issue. But today, now on top of all of that, we've got ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Gemini, AI meeting assistants. In fact, there are probably AI meeting assistants connected to this webinar right now. AI browser extensions, AI powered SaaS applications and tools. Again, SaaS meaning software as a service just means web-based applications. That's all that means. Um, that's today. That's what we have to deal with today now. That's the new shadow IT. It's AI through and through. So point is employees are using AI whether you like it or know it or not. And dovetailing into that, most companies have no idea what AI tools companies are using. They have no idea what company data is being uploaded to those tools. They don't have any idea of who approved the tools, if anyone. And they have no idea what permissions AI tools have. Like, think about that. Most companies don't know what the AI tools can actually access and what information they can glean and gather. They just don't know. And not all AI risk comes from ChatGPT. ChatGPT is probably the most prominent one because they were the first. Also, ChatGPT's focus has primarily been consumers versus Claude and Copilot, their focus has been businesses. Now that's great because it allows Claude and Copilot gives them great business tools and things like that. However, ChatGPT is the most pervasive, not just because they're first, but because that's what everybody knows. That's what they're using at home. So they're going to use it at work, probably more than Claude or Copilot. And in fact, if you're paying for Claude or Copilot, which many of our clients do, so many of the people on this call probably do, I'll bet you're also paying for ChatGPT, or you're not paying for it, and that data is being used for to build their AI model, or the employees are paying for it and they're using their paid version of ChatGPT to access company data. So not all risk comes from ChatGPT. AI is very broad. It's built into all kinds of tools now. AI is used probably already in your SaaS application. I mean, it's used everywhere. It's very pervasive. So AI receives information, it accesses the information, it takes actions, and it makes decisions. ChatGPT can't always do that, although in some cases it can. So it's important to know that AI is a very broad thing. And so let's talk about that for a minute. The AI maturity ladder. So this graphic, which by the way, was made with ChatGPT in a second. I mean, well, maybe not a second, maybe like 30 seconds. I input all this information into it. I said, please give me a slide presentation for present, to present to customers, prospects, the general public on the 6 levels of AI maturity. I gave it the AI maturity. It actually filled in the examples for me. I didn't ask for that. So that's kind of some of the benefits. And many of you know this already. You do use this for AI already. You use AI for this purpose already. Filled the icons in and everything like that. Did a great job. It's wonderful for these types of tools. Point is though, it made those decisions for me. I didn't ask for all that. I was kind of imagining a ladder, like a ladder icon with the words to the right of the ladder, and it gave me this. It made that decision on for me autonomously, and gave me this lower risk, higher risk bar on the left-hand side, which is actually I had not considered. It's actually a very good idea. So let's start at the bottom here. Level one, AI reads data. Good example of that is ChatGPT. It's a chatbot. It reads data that you send to it, and then it gives you an output. That's what it did here when it created this image for me. But the next level up is AI creates content. It generates the content summaries or insights based on the provided data. That's exactly what it did. I gave it data, I gave it this information, and it generated all of this for me. And I just copied and pasted because frankly, it's great. Um, Now, level three, though, AI accesses systems. So now we're getting beyond chatbots here. AI connects to systems and data sources to retrieve or update information. And that's where AI is built into some of your SaaS applications, and it's connected to lots of different pieces of data in your organization, automation tools, things like that. Level four is actual automation. That's where AI performs multi-step tasks with minimal human input, meaning that you have decided ahead of time what AI has access to and approximately how it should behave. And then you've given it autonomy to do those things. So good examples of that. I like these examples actually. It's invoice processing. It's managing, making decisions about inventory, and even onboarding workflows for new employees and things like that. Level five, AI makes recommendations. And that's where AI has access to all of this data and it can summarize that data, pull it together, and it can intelligently make recommendations to you on how to run your business, what decisions to make, like loan recommendations or content recommendations. And there's another example here that was outside the scope of what I gave to ChatGPT, but it added it anyway. It's a good one. It's medical diagnoses. Think about that. I mean, AI has access to all of your health history, your MRI scans, CT, things like that, and it can make a medical diagnosis from that. It's already happening. It's already there. Then the level six is AI makes decisions. It's not just recommendations for humans, serving information. All this, everything prior to level six is serving stuff up for human beings. And making and doing some things for sure, like automating processes, but things that you've already decided that it could do. But level six is where AI makes decisions autonomously with minimal or no human involvement. And we see that already. We credit approvals, that's done with AI now. There are trading, stock market trades done with AI. Very common now, very popular. Certain other autonomous operations. There are a lot of things that AI automatically does. If you've engaged with a service to help you hire somebody, um, AI is reading those resumes and making decisions on whether to keep or discard resumes. So there's a lot here that AI is doing already. So, but this is the AI maturity ladder that businesses can go through, and you have to decide where are you and where are you comfortable landing, all the way at the top or closer to level one. Here are some real life AI scenarios, though. Marketing. Imagine this. AI writes the copy. We see that all the time. It's called AI slop out on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. Text that is clearly written with AI. Another one is what I mentioned before. AI screens candidates for human resources. Or in finance, this is also very common. AI categorizes transactions, automatically puts it into the right accounts for you. Customer service, AI answers client questions. And then in sales, AI drafts proposals and emails, really common now. And again, you can see that you can almost tell, whether it's AI. Are they using the M dash? That's a big giveaway that it's ChatGPT. There's a construction that AI is famous for using, particularly ChatGPT, where it's, you know, we're not talking about one thing, and then it'll expound on that and say, we're talking about this thing now. And so that's a really popular construction that AI uses. You can really detect AI pretty well now, but AI, as soon as you can detect it, gets better and becomes undetectable again. So here we are now. The question of risk, the risky question. We're getting into where it's a little bit dangerous with AI. And the questions we have to start asking ourselves is not just, can AI do this? That's a functional question. What we're really at now is asking ourselves, should AI do this in my company? So should AI hire employees? Should AI approve expenses? Should AI recommend disciplinary actions with employees? Should AI set pricing? Should AI tier customers? In other words, make certain customers above other customers preferentially? Should AI determine credit worthiness or who you choose to be your customers? So, what should you decide as a business owner or an IT manager? What should you decide for your business? Approved AI tools. Which tools are allowed? What data is approved to be uploaded? These are decisions. When is human review required when working with these AI tools? What critical systems are we going to allow AI to access? And another one is, what decisions require human intervention? That's a critical one. Because part of the point of this, right, is to take the burden off of humans and let humans do human things and things that can be automated, things where AI can make decisions, it can be trusted, and let AI do those kinds of things. But where do we draw the line as business owners and IT managers? Where do we draw the line where humans need to be involved in that process? That's where an AI acceptable use policy comes into play. And this is what we recommend everybody use and create. Sort of like an acceptable use policy. If you've worked with us, we've probably recommended it or helped you create one where this is a policy of what is acceptable for your users to do, the behavior that's acceptable for them on your company, laptops, PCs, servers, SaaS applications, and things like that. That's an acceptable use policy. So what we're talking about now is an AI acceptable use policy. Sort of the same thing, but specifically tailored for AI. So we're talking about things like approved AI platforms or prohibited uses on AI, how to handle confidential information or how to handle customer data. Or really critically, how to handle intellectual property. Intellectual property, I guarantee you that Coca-Cola and Kentucky Fried Chicken, I guarantee you they do not put the recipe up on ChatGPT and say, hey, how can I improve this? Once up on ChatGPT, the unpaid version at least, once up on ChatGPT, it becomes part of the model. ChatGPT now knows it. And do you really want to take that risk with paid ChatGPT or paid Copilot or Claude? Something is so critical as, the secret sauce or the secret recipe to some of the most iconic brands, in the world. I guarantee they're not doing it. Definitely not. And then what human oversight requirements are there for using artificial intelligence and security requirements and critically regulatory and disclosure requirements too? What do we have to do in AI to comply with the regulatory bodies that you are responsible for, or insurance bodies, or your customer contracts, or your vendor contracts, all of those things. Another thing you can do too, to help get this information, to give some visibility into what your company is doing with AI, is to do an AI assessment. And we can help with that too. But that answers questions like which AI tools are our employees using? What data is being exposed? What permissions are there? What policies are missing from our repertoire that we need to have for that employees need to sign off on? And then what controls should be implemented? Because the biggest risk in AI is using it without knowing where it's being used, what it can access, or who is accountable for it. Who in the organization is accountable for it? That's the biggest risk in AI. So I'm going to open it back up. Paris, do we have any
Yes.
questions?
Yep, we got some good questions in. The
Great.
first one is, how do I know if employees are already using AI?
Well, so you need an AI assessment to know. Barring that, you don't really know what they're using. However, I can guarantee you they're using it because it's so easy to access. You go to chatgpt.com, free account, claude.com, free account. Anybody who's got a Microsoft account gets Copilot. You go to Google to search, that's Gemini. It's already Gemini. If you ask it a basic old search term like, you know, uh, I don't know, moving boxes near me or coffee near me, it's just going to come up with coffee places, right? But if you ask it a very specific question, like where in the world is Arabica coffee grown? You know what? It's going to give you an answer, and that's going to launch Gemini, and then you can ask follow-up questions for it. So AI is everywhere. All you have to do is go to your Google search bar, and you've got access to AI now. It's everywhere. Microsoft serves up Copilot like you can't even turn around on your computer. In fact, some people have a Copilot button on their computer laptop now. It's so pervasive. So you really can't get away from it. So your employees are absolutely using AI. It's not a question of if they are. It's which one they're using and what are they doing with it. So, Paris?
What kind of company information should never be connected to AI?
Uh, you know, uh, think well, a good example of that is the Coca-Cola recipe, KFC recipe, things like that. But a lot of companies have their own equivalent of that. And so, is there a is there data that you have that would be a breach of contract to share publicly? Um, is there data that you have that is your secret sauce, meaning that's the differentiator between you and your competition? There's not another chicken place that tastes like KFC. Pepsi and Dr. Pepper, and RC, R4, whatever, these other colas, they don't taste like Coca-Cola. So, do you really want to risk any of that data getting out there? You have to really think about that type of information. So I personally would not share some of the critical data. Now, if you don't have like secret recipes or something like that, any trade secrets or, protected information, or intellectual property rather, it's much less of a concern. And you can just potentially lean on ChatGPT or Copilots or Claude's terms of service. But I tend to take a very conservative approach. Anybody there who knows me knows this is how I am. I tend to take a very conservative and protective approach to everything because for a lot of us, our businesses are our livelihoods. And so they should be treated as such. So, do you want to take that risk that they aren't going to do something with your data? And that risk comes into the question, despite what the terms of service say. So those are deep questions to ask that this office hours can't answer for you. But I would always caution, no matter what we're talking about, a conservative approach that protects your business because your business is your livelihood. Even if you're an employee and not an owner, it's your livelihood. It's someone else's livelihood too. And it's a financial asset as well. So it needs to be protected as such. Anyway, Paris.
Can our data be part of an AI model?
Yeah, it can for sure. So it's sort of like what we were just talking about. If you don't pay for ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Copilot, um, Copilot's a little bit different though, because they have different sets of terms of service. And to my knowledge, there's not a terms of service that allows them to use it as part of their model. But Copilot's different because Copilot is basically also just an older version of ChatGPT. Um, so it's already been trained. But Copilot's notoriously a little bit less effective natively, in part because it's not the current model, although it does connect to the current model. So point is that Copilot doesn't have the same learning motivation that ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini have. Is hungry to learn because it's because it's completely free. So you don't even need an account to get to Gemini. So, if you anything you put into that in the free versions of all of these chats, uh, chatbots, it should be considered public information now. As soon as it goes up there, it's going to be part of the model. And who knows how that information will be used or who it will be spit out to and in what form. So be very, very careful of that. Paris.
What liability do we have with employees using AI?
I think that's I think that's very customer specific, very business specific. Overall, um, to be determined. We don't know. This stuff hasn't made it through the court system. There's no precedence for this yet, not really. Um, a lot of this comes down to the contracts you have with your customers and vendors, what regulatory agencies you're responsible to, what they suggest. And I would just use a lot of good judgment with it. Again, I always suggest a conservative approach to everything in business when it comes to things like this because you just don't know what is going to happen, what it's going to be used. It's very new technology, so I'd be very conservative with that.
We want to block all AI. Can we do that?
Um, Probably, you could get close to it at least. So, if you're using Salesforce, sorry, AI is already in it. If you're using Microsoft products, you could just say not to use it. You could turn it off in some ways. It's kind of hard to remove AI from Microsoft products right now. So that would be difficult. You could certainly block access to chatgpt.com, but you really can't block access to google.com. And Gemini is part of that now. So kind of not. You could block access to Claude, but there are a lot of agents now that integrate with different services, Microsoft services, automation agents, things like that. It's kind of hard to block access to all AI. If by all AI you mean chatbots, though, you can, except for Gemini, unless you turn off Google searches. But then what are they going to use? Bing searches? Because guess what? Bing searches is Copilot now. Even if you use privacy search engine like DuckDuckGo, they have their own Duck AI. So yeah, it's not really. You really can't, unfortunately. You can try a little bit, but it's not going to be very successful.
All right, we have one more in here. How can we know what employees are uploading into AI systems?
You really can't. It's almost impossible to know. I mean, you can install software on the network to see what employees do and monitor and things like that. Those things are notoriously difficult and frustrating, and you need to have updates in your employee handbook to know that to record that kind of information. So, barring all of that, you don't know what your employees do in their computers, barring some sort of software like that, and including uploading to ChatGPT, which is why having an acceptable use policy, an AI acceptable use policy, is so critical because now the employees have to sign off on it. Now there's there's a policy in place that one protects the company, your company. It gives it some liability shield because now you're doing your due diligence as an organization to create these policies. And if an employee goes rogue, well, then an employee went against the policy. Um, so it provides some legal shielding for an organization. But crucially, it also gives you the option of disciplinary action because they've been made aware of the policy. Um, but that's only if you catch them. So unfortunately, this is part of the problem with shadow IT. With shadow IT, it's hard to know what an employee is doing. So I always recommend being ahead of it, being in front of it. Employees are human beings, and human beings are very resourceful, and we will always find a way to do what we want to do. And so work that to your advantage. If an employee wants to, if they want to use AI to make their job simpler, give them an AI to use and say, okay, AI is fine, use this. And it might require plunking down some dollars to pay for ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude or something like this, or building out agents, things like that. It might require some investment like that, but that investment pays its dividends because it will protect your company. It will keep your data safer. So I always recommend being cautious, conservative, and also being mindful of what company culture you're creating with the way that you manage and handle your employees and the tone that you set when it comes to everything, like cybersecurity, which is what we usually talk about in that vein, but also in the topic here of today's office hours, using AI in the office. So I think that's absolutely crucial. Use humanity to your advantage. Give them the tools in advance for them to use, and they'll probably use them.
All right, I know we're right at time. We have one more question. What permissions should we give to AI agents?
I I would give them as little as humanly possible. But that's the cybersecurity professional in me. That is the best way to secure everything, is to give the least amount of permissions required to do the job, whether it's an employee or an AI agent or an automated process or whatever it is, give the least amount of permissions needed to do the job, the least.
All right, that concludes today's office hours section. We will be meeting again on July 1st. The YouTube recording will be up shortly, and you can join using the same link that you used today. So feel free to send that to anyone you think would benefit from these sessions, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Bye, everyone.